M0A Nation. Jason here, making sure everything's working okay. 3 minutes till we get started. I got my chats pulled up as well. I can see Paul, Scott, Joe, Martin Miller, Brian, Cal, Coast to Coast Aviation in South Florida, James Johnson, Robert Edwards over on YouTube. Good to see you guys. Facebook, where are you at? Give a shout out over in the chat. And we'll be starting in about 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Looking forward to it. All right, M0A Nation, 45 seconds. We'll be getting started. Wade in Dallas. Robert, great to see you. John Highfill, great to see you. John in Oregon, fantastic to see you all as well, my friend. 30 seconds, we'll be back with you, and we'll be chatting, doing a live weather briefing with you all. 30 seconds. All right, M0A Nation, excited to be with you all this afternoon. Hopefully you all are having a wonderful afternoon. A little mid-work day live stream for everybody. Sharing more, we're going to be diving into ForeFlight, sharing some ForeFlight live weather briefings here just for you all to get a better understanding. We're going to do it. We're going to pick 2 random airports. We're going to work to make a smart go and no-go decision based on all the data that we receive and based on where you're at in your flying as well. But anyways, blessed, thankful, excited to be with you all. I have the chats for both YouTube and Facebook over here as well. So I can head over here and say hi to Walter and Orlando, Bill, Michael, Brian Morrison in Charlotte, North Carolina. Great to see you all. Steve says good morning from Alaska. It is morning in Alaska. That's fantastic. Over on Facebook, Alvarez, Eric, who is just a Photoshop ninja. I saw that, Eric. Put me in good spirits right before the webinar, too. Eric loves to take funny Jason Shepard pictures and turn them into memes. If you're in the M0A alumni group, you know what I'm talking about. Stephen, good to see you. Marilyn, fantastic to see you. Over on YouTube, Jason in Atlanta, great name by the way, just came back from flying. I got to do some flying yesterday. It had been almost 3 weeks since I had been flying, so really excited to get back in the air. Gordon in Portland, good to see you. In Jupiter, Florida, in the UK, fantastic to see you all as well. Michael in Knoxville, great to see you, Michael. I hear you guys are opening back up here soon as well. Adonis says, hello from rainy Miami. That rain woke me up about 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll look at that weather here in just a bit. as it kind of passed on through, but very thankful to have you all here. I want to remind everybody too, you know, we've been doing phenomenal live streams all throughout this stay-at-home order. We're starting to slowly maybe get back to work. We're excited about that. Please don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube, like us and follow us on Facebook as well. Also on the far right-hand side of your screen, that is our Instagram name tag. You can literally scan that or just type in M-Z-E-R-O-A, M0A. If you want to follow us for some great behind the scenes as to what we're up to on Instagram, we post a lot of that as well. So thank you for everybody for that. I also want to share before we get into the content, do make sure you're listening to any one or all of our 4 podcasts. Did you know we put out 4 podcasts? The Private Pilot Podcast, the Instrument Pilot Podcast, the Commercial Pilot Podcast, and the CFI Certificated Flight Instructor podcast as well. You can find all of those on iTunes, so check that out as well. So just thankful and excited to share all of that with you. Anyways, I want to dive into ForeFlight, and I want to do a weather briefing here with you all live, unscripted. You're going to hear my unfiltered opinion of the weather, and then we are going to work to make a smart go and no-go decision. But here's some rules before we dive into this. So we're going to pick somewhere, and I'll show you the iPad. I have the iPad here. I'll show you the iPad some more here in a bit. Here are the rules. We're going to brief this, and I want you to brief this with me, and I want you to make a go or a no-go decision based on where you're at sitting here today in your flying. Maybe you're just a student pilot, maybe whatever. Maybe you're a private pilot, but you haven't flown in 6 weeks because of the coronavirus. Right as you sit today, I want you to make a go or no-go decision. So as we're diving into the weather, as we're looking into things, if it's a no-go for you, just type in no-go. Wind's too high. No-go. Remember, we just had a video last week on personal minimums, or this week on personal minimums. We want to obey our hard set personal minimum numbers. So a few more shout outs, then let's dive into it. Chris, Daniel, Jerry on YouTube, good to see you. James Leary, Greg, Buddy, hey Deb, good to see you from windy Nebraska, she says. Robbie Dillon, great to see you as well over on Facebook. Let's now dive into it because I know we're in the middle of the workday and I want to honor your time. We are looking at ForeFlight. We are looking at the middle of the country near windy Nebraska. And well, we got a lot of weather happening here. This is that nasty little front that just passed through. That's Donna said it was raining down in Miami. This is why. This woke me up about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. So thank you for that. And then we have this really nasty front over here. Let's check out the West Coast, see what's happening. You can always look for Seattle for weather. Is that true or what? I can always go to the Pacific Northwest for weather, and it's really not that bad. I actually have some stuff working through kind of Idaho, everything else. Let's pick out a fictitious flight here. I don't want it to be an easy no-go, like anybody through DC and down, basically. That's an easy no-go for anybody on here. Let's pick something a little more challenging. We had a few from Knoxville. I saw that earlier. I am a big Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg fan. So I have been to the Sevierville Airport. Can we go out to GKT? That sound good for everybody? I kind of want to pick, there's some weather, but there's not a ton of weather. We'll see, at least based on the radar. Let's leave from Sevierville. Let's go out to GKT. And let's head at least towards the weather because I want to get some mountains. I know you West Coasters would call these hills, but we call these mountains. What if we got close to it and went into like Roanoke? What's Roanoke? R-O-A? We can go into Roanoke here. Let's do that, okay? I've already got that queued up for us here, and we can go ahead and go direct. All right, so if I look at this, and I'm just looking at my composite radar, not a whole lot is happening. Robert asked a question, I apologize. He asked, what plane are we using for this go and no-go decision? Robert, I want you to use whatever plane you're flying the most, whatever you have the most hours in, whatever you're most familiar with, that's what I would like you to use. So again, as you sit here today, maybe you haven't flown in 6 weeks, maybe you just like some flew earlier, in whatever airplane you're most comfortable in, or you'd make a flight like this in. How far of a flight is this? 200 something miles? We're going to look at it here. Yeah, about 2 hours roughly. I think I have this probably queued up for 23 Mike Zulu, 190 miles. So most of our aircraft would make that work. So we've got that queued up. Let's go ahead and let's start to work through making that go and no-go decision. So I'm going to head up and I'm going to click on the flight plan here. I'm then going to go down, and you see I have 23 Mike Zulu picked in there as well. It just kind of auto-populated that. Don't worry about altitudes and everything else. It'll be fine with what we're doing. I'm going to hit this bottom right button, the send to. I'm going to send it to flights. I'm going to let that load. All right, and then I'm going to hit this green cloud here that says briefing. And we're going to let this briefing load, and then we'll kind of work through it. Let's see how good my internet's going to be. It's going to work. All right. First things first, we land on Airmet. Ron, tell Debbie I say hi as well. All right. I'm looking at the chat simultaneously here. All right. First things first, we land on any Airmets. We have an Airmet Sierra for our area. Okay. Anybody making a go or no go just yet, or choose to make a no go? I love that it's graphical for us. We can see our route. We know we have an Airmet Sierra. Airmet Sierra is for what? IFR conditions and or mountain obscurations. We can kind of dig into that a little bit further and see where look at the textual bit of it, the raw text of it, or we can look at the pictorial version of it here as well. So we are dealing with an Airmet Sierra for some of our route, it looks like. Let's look at just mountain obscurations, all right? Well, we do. We kind of fall into a little, coming out of GKT, we're barely fall into some mountain obscurations here as well, all right? So that's fine. Let's keep moving forward. Let's look at Icing Airmets. This is interesting. We just barely, let's look. I know it's blurry. Are we in that? Are we on the border? Let's dig deeper here, because we know in most of our aircraft, I cannot fly into what's called known icing conditions. If there is an Airmet Zulu on my route, those are known icing conditions. But let's spell it out a little bit further, because remember, we fly in a three-dimensional space. So this could be up at altitude, could be a non-event for us. Let's look a little bit further here. All right, I know we barely fit into the border. And if you look, I can't zoom in here, but at the bottom of this paragraph, right before the paragraph break, it says moderate ice between the freezing level and flight level 180. The freezing level is somewhere between 3,000 to 8,000 feet. Now, we know we're going to, in a single engine aircraft, we're going to be flying somewhere in this. We already know we probably need an instrument rating because we're working through this. The Airmet Sierra on top of an Airmet Zulu, and again, I get it. We are barely in it. I'm sure this is mostly, I was looking at this earlier, it is nasty up in Michigan, Chicago, into Canada a little bit for icing. We may get somewhere at the very tail end of it, but to me that kind of sounds like known icing conditions right where I need to be flying. Anybody making no-go decisions just yet? Steven on Facebook, that's a smart decision. Gary on YouTube, smart decision. Okay, let's see. Let's look at Turbulence Airmets now. All right, Airmet Tango. We fall dead smack in the middle of an Airmet Tango. So if you are playing the Triple Crown, which has been postponed this year, we have the Triple Crown of Airmets. Our route falls into all three, Sierra, Zulu, and Tango Airmets, at least on one portion of another, fall into this. If I fall into all three Airmet categories, you pretty much know my decision. But for the educational aspect of this, let's keep moving forward so we can just learn as much as we can. But I see many, many no-goes coming up, and we're only on page 3 of our 28-page briefing right now. We got some smart people in here. If you've got all three Airmets across the board, the Airmet made the decision for me. I am not going. That's myself included here. For the purposes of education, let's keep moving forward though. All right, they do Airmet Tangos for higher altitudes as well. It's funny how, look how we kind of keep bordering a lot of these Airmets to begin with. That's really, it's just because the mountains, the route we're taking, the mountains really, we're kind of parallel the mountains on the way out of there. Let's dive into the synopsis now. This is showing us our latest surface analysis chart. Let's see what we can learn. This is a part of that nasty front that just kind of went whipping through Florida and is really heading up the entire East Coast. This right here is, who knows what this is, by the way, and not the big L. I'm talking about the purple line here. Who knows what this is? This is like danger, absolute no-go. I want nothing to do with this purple line that I see on the screen right now. Who knows what we're actually looking at? But this is the reason the weather is so crummy up there. This is a reason there's so much icing, as we saw on that previous Airmet. This is probably also the reason we have an Airmet Tango. It is all because of this weird purple line right here. Eric, you are spot on Facebook with what that is. Of course, I'd only expect that from you. No, I'm not talking about the stationary front. This is the stationary front right here. I'm talking about this purple hook right here. Don't mind that the L's on the end of it. That's just telling us it's a low. Okay, not a million, not a million answers here. That's fine. All right. This is an occluded front. This is an occluded front. I like over on YouTube. He said, "I folded. I mean, I bowed out as soon as you said we're flying to a place called Sevierville." I get it. I get it. This is an occluded front, all right? And some of you, I might have a little bit of delay on the chat because my internet's not exactly stellar right now since the world is on the internet working from home. This is an occluded front. An occluded front happens when a cold front catches up to a warm front. So a warm front is moving along, a cold front comes in, it's moving much faster, takes over, they meet, and they create what's called an occluded front. There is no faster way to create really ugly weather. I'm talking tornadoes, embedded thunderstorms, microbursts. There's no faster way to make weather other than that nasty of weather, than a cold front catching up to a warm front, which creates an occluded front like we see here. This is avoid at all costs. We will see this played out here today as well. Watch the Michigan kind of area as well into New York as well as you're dealing with this occluded front. All right, so that's that. That is our latest surface analysis. Let's keep moving forward here. Look at our Metars. I love that ForeFlight gives us these Metars as a picture. We look at it, we see green, green, green. There's some blue. Blue is our marginal VFR. And you might be thinking, you know, it's really not that bad, kind of through the mountains, some marginal VFR, but where I'm leaving is green, where I'm going to is green. I see no problems with this. However, if we started here, so look at this image. If we started here, this was the first image we pulled up before we knew about the Airmets, before we knew about occluded fronts, all these things. You'd look at this and go, it's not that bad. Marginal VFR, that doesn't sound all that bad. I think this is why ForeFlight doesn't start you with the Metars, because if you saw just the Metars, you'd have made a go decision. When we start with the Airmets is where we need to start, because let's dig further. When we look, we can see we're departing 10 statute miles, scattered 43, broken 55, no big deal. Some other places though, look at, I don't know where DKX is, gusting up to 13 though, few at 3,100. Let's look at some of our marginal places. How about 0 Alpha Niner? Again, I'm not familiar with where that is, but the winds are 260 at 5, gusts to 14, and scattered at 2,500. VJI gusting to 17. A lot of gusty kind of winds that we're going to be dealing with here. But a lot of people make the mistake. Hey, it's green where I'm leaving. It's green where I'm going. I'm not too worried about in between. Yet it is that weather in between that often gets us in so much trouble. All right, let's go ahead and let's keep working through that. Next, over to our Pireps. All right, I always like to look at our Pireps and see who is giving the Pireps. So for example, this one is from a CRJ7. I'm very thankful it's from that they gave a Pirep, and they're going through 4,000 feet, so it's not, it actually is beneficial. So this looks like they're coming off of Knoxville probably. 4,000 feet, it's a CRJ. Clouds are overcast at 45 That was actually during the descent. I apologize. See the remarks during during the descent. All right, let's go to the next one here. Oh, Knoxville downtown is what that is. Thank you, Michael. I haven't been there, but certainly flown over it. Next one coming from a PC-12. Okay, I love these types of Pireps. Everybody know what a PC-12 is? A Pilatus PC-12? I'm sure you've seen them on the airport. If not, they're one of my favorite airplanes. All right? We're looking through this. The PC-12, which is a big airplane, not big, but big compared to our 172s we're flying. Turbulence, moderate. He is up at the flight levels, moderate and occasional, and you can see the flight levels he's flying at. Now, obviously this is way up high, so it doesn't totally apply to us, but I always look at Pireps for turbulence, and you have to take them for what they're worth. Because moderate turbulence to a PC-12 is going to be what kind of turbulence to your 172 or your Cirrus or your Archer or whatever you're flying? It's going to be more than moderate if they're defining it as moderate, because you're a lighter airplane. It's easier to displace. If the same amount of force hits a linebacker and also hits the punter on the team, they're going to push it's much easier to hit the punter. Punters normally smaller people than it is to hit the lineman on the team. You follow me? It's all about weight with that. All right. Let's look at this one. Here's another one, a 6. This is interesting. It's a Cessna 310. That's a twin Cessna. A 6-mile final for runway 22. And we can see they broke out. The bases were overcast at 4,900. All right, good to know. So we learned some. All these Pireps could, with the exception of this Pilatus being way up high at 20,000 feet, still certainly is beneficial for us though. Let's look now at cloud coverage. I love these cloud coverage charts, and we can work through some of these here as well. So previously, back in the day, we used to always say, you know, I know where the bases are, but it's so hard to always tell where the tops are. So now we can head over, and this also I love that it overlays our Airmet Sierra. See, can you kind of see it buried in there where it says mountain obscurations in the box? It's showing you your Airmets as well, so you can see those. But this kind of confers what we're learning here. Overcast 23, overcast 26, tops 28. Always look at the tops. Because when I have tops like this, like 7,000, I'm not so worried about that. I get concerned though when right next door is tops 27,000, tops 28,000, drops down to 8,000. Look at this one. Flight level 320. Let's see if we can find any higher. As we get towards the nasty weather, we sure can. 420, 420. This is that nasty line we just saw. All right, can we look up towards that occluded front? And it doesn't quite show that far up, but you can see some high tops, 24,000 over there as well. It's when we get these towering cumulonimbus clouds that I get a little bit nervous, because that's where all the forces, that's where all the moistures, that's where all the updrafts and downdrafts and ice and the issues we're going to run into, those towering cumulonimbus clouds really bring them. The nice thing about this is if I go back, I can look ahead. That's 1800 Zulu. I can look at 2100 Zulu, 00 Zulu, things are getting better. And I can see the whole United States, 18, 21, and 00 as well, all right? Here we can look at up at that occluded front like I wanted to show you. You can see how it's literally that same kind of curvature coming all the way around. You see it just says ice right there. Absolutely, there's a ton of ice and nasty weather associated with that, all right? Everybody good on that? Yeah, a bunch of people saying, not today. I'm not flying today either, don't worry. Let's do this. Let's go to the visibility, surface winds, and precipitation. Again, I love how you can literally see the line of storms here. You can literally see it. By the way, this is a written test question. How do you know that a front has passed? I'm off of my verbiage a little bit, but for the most part, that's the written test question. I know it's on the private instrument levels for sure. How do you know a front has passed? They give you A, B, C. It's a 180-degree change in winds. Let's look at this and see if this proves true. So we can't go out further into the coast to kind of see that, but we're getting close to that 180-degree change. Can you see our winds are coming from the south before the front passes? And then after the front passes, can we see we're not quite 180-degree change just yet? But as the front passes fully, as it's already passed through the Midwest, you can see how that front has passed. We have winds from the north going through Iowa, where this was just a few days ago. You guys got all that nasty weather. Missouri, Arkansas, out on the East Coast, they're still coming from the south. Wait till that front passes. You're going to see those winds flip 180 degrees. All right. So again, I can look at the 1800, I can look at the 20, and I forgot to go over the legend, by the way, down here. We have the legend here showing visibility is where I really like to focus. So you're saying, what is the pink and that purple there? This is just visibility. And you can see how crummy that visibility is. Looking at it as it pertains to our flight, we just have a lot of kind of turbulence and rain shown right there is what we're actually seeing. All right, let's look at TAFs next. Again, where I'm leaving is green, where I'm going to is green, yet so often we use that and we end up getting ourselves in trouble when we look at it just that way. So we want to come down to the TAFs and see what's causing these to go marginal VFR and see what we can learn a little bit more. And how marginal is it? Hey, 4 statute miles, light showers, rain, and mist. That's going to be borderline IFR for me anyways, depending on where you're actually pulling that data from. We do have a few stations actually showing IFR with overcast at 800, and then some low IFR we're diving into, overcast 400, overcast 300 out of BLF. Again, this is just reinforcing my no-go decision here. Now we get into our wind chart, showing us just our wind for our flight, a nice, awesome tailwind for this flight, and it's showing it to us for our altitude of 9,000 feet. Next, we have something very cool, and I want to take some time to spend on this. Here we have something called the vertical cross-section chart. And if you're just seeing this for the first time, there is a lot going on here. So I want to go back to my computer. Give me 1 second. I want to go back to my computer, and I actually want to teach about this vertical cross-section chart, because this is a great example. I have another great example on the computer. This is relatively new from ForeFlight. And when you fully understand it, you'll realize it's a game changer of a chart. You could use just this chart alone and make almost a perfect go and no-go decision with a little bit of extra data as well. So this is my computer now. Yes, it is. Perfect. Okay. This is an example. This is not the one we're using for this flight. This is an example of the ForeFlight cross-section chart here. So this chart, by the way, is always read like a book. You got my cursor? From left to right, like a graph. The left side shows the flight levels, or altitudes, as you can see, up to your highest planned altitude, plus usually a few thousand feet on top of it, just so you know what's actually above you. The bottom of this chart is usually broken into 15 sections. Now, the sections don't necessarily line up with your exact route of flight. These are simply just stations actually along the way, but they divide it, as you can see, into 15 sections. The actual top header here, the top of the header of the vertical cross-section chart is going to give us our chart name, where the weather all came from, so we can see that, and then the weather data, direction, everything else. So you'll also see we have the tropopause altitude being displayed on the actual chart. They give us the tropopause in dashed line, so my high altitude flyers will appreciate this, as well as its numeric value up top here, and it's relative to your flight path. Also, you see these arrows we have, or better to show here. Your direction of flight, again, is from left to right across this chart. So they are going to show you where north is up in relation to your actual flight. So that's that arrow that kind of bisects that. So the arrow represents where is north in relation to your direction of flight. Next, we get into our wind barbs. Our wind barbs read just like how we'd read them on our winds aloft chart or anything like that. Again, direction of flight is from left to right. So you can see we have a quartering tailwind from the left side This one's showing our pendants here. And by the way, if you don't know, each short barb, and this is an example of a short barb here, is 5 knots. Each long barb, and these are all long barbs here, is representative of 10 knots. So this would be 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 5. 45 knots quartering tailwind that you can see from your left side, because we're going from left to right across this chart. The actual pennants, these flags, are 50 knots, and you can get flags with barbs as well, as you can see here. As we continue in the flight, you can see our tailwind shifts to now from our right side, as you can see as well. Now, you also notice these weird little shapes right here. See these little kind of happy faces with some lines through them, or smile faces, these U's? That shows icing, and it actually shows icing severity. So it's icing severity based on what's there. So anyways, this is showing trace, light, moderate, severe. Trace, light, moderate, severe. So how severe is the icing, and where will it be along your flight? We're also given turbulence. Turbulence is shown, and the colored boxes represent the turbulence. It's based on the EDR scale. The scale can actually be found down at the bottom of the chart that you can see here, and each colored turbulence box displays the EDR value in the lower right-hand corner. So the EDR value is from 0 to 1, 1 meaning like rip your airplane apart, okay? So you can see this here. This is a 0.2, this is a 0.3. Thus, see the change in colors. I don't know how it translates across your monitors, but this is kind of like a green, and this is kind of a yellow that you can see here. So this is showing you areas of turbulence that may be around your route of flight. So we understand and have that. Lastly, beneath the wind barbs, it gives us our temperature. The temperatures at altitude and on the leg, the values are negative unless a plus symbol is actually shown here. So you can see that. Lastly, they're showing us these green boxes are our terrain. Now, this doesn't mean we're going to hit the terrain by any means, okay? What this is showing us is the highest terrain along our route, plus or minus 0.1 degree longitude and latitude. So you're going to climb right above this. It's just saying this is the highest terrain along your route. This doesn't mean you're going to go plowing through the mountain. This is simply just showing you the highest terrain along the actual route, so you can see what that looks like. All right, so that's kind of the whole thing as a big picture. Let me now go back and let me get ForeFlight brought back up here, and let's take what we just learned from that example and apply it. So looking at our vertical cross-section chart for this flight, again, we see the terrain. If you've been to Sevierville, you know it kind of sits down the valley, and you better get climbing quick because there's plenty of mountains around there. Again, this doesn't mean we're going to hit the mountains. I can't really zoom in, sorry. This doesn't mean we're going to hit the mountains. It just shows us where they are. Obviously, we're not flying high enough to show the tropopause in this example, but we're still showing, as you can see, some icing and our icing severity, and we are flying right through the icing, my friends. As you can see, it is above us, it is below us, we are going through it. You can also start to see over here a little bit of that turbulence we spoke about. It's showing down at the 2,000 and 4,000 foot levels. You might say, Jason, that's in the mountains, that's in the terrain. And well, it is in this 2D animation. However, it's sitting in a valley. It's sitting, just because there's one high peak out there, it shoots this whole box up. So you can see, remember, the terrain is showing the highest point along that, just so we can fully see and understand all of that. Any questions on that? Because this chart to me has been a really big game changer. I know it's not 3D, it kind of feels 3D though, although it's very much 2D. But to see icing above me, icing below me, turbulence above me, turbulence below me, or in the turbulence, or to see how I can adjust my altitudes to get a more favorable tailwind. We already have a pretty good tailwind. We could climb up, it looks like, and get a stronger tailwind, but climbing up also subjects us to even more ice. I already made a no-go decision, but that's that. Steve and a few others were asking where I found this. This is actually in the briefing. So the only way for ForeFlight to populate this is to have 2 points and an altitude of where you're going to. So when you file 2 points, you don't have to file them, but then go into briefing mode like I did at the beginning of this, it's towards the end because we're almost at the end of our ForeFlight briefing here. Everybody follow me, but it's really, really cool. I'm telling you, this has been a game changer for my flying. I don't get to deal with a lot of icing, thank goodness, being in Florida. But the flying that we do that involves it, absolutely, we're watching that. All right, we're coming to the home stretch here. I'm sorry I spent so much time on that, but it's super, super cool. All right. Let me see. Oh, yeah, Daniel, I don't know if it's an upgrade in ForeFlight or not. I need to renew my ForeFlight, speaking of that. I don't know. I have the higher level because I like getting the Jeppesen charts and everything else in there and the 3D and all that. Anyways. Winds loft table, not a whole lot to explain here. We just saw it graphically a little bit better. And then of course, then we dive into our Notams. And I'm not doing Notams a disservice. Notams are phenomenal and you must go through the Notams, but we would spend another half an hour here if I went through line by line reading every single Notam to you guys. You guys know how to read Notams. You know what to look for. Here I'm just kind of scanning through to see if anything big jumps out at me here. With that, en route, just kind of looking some warning areas, everything else, runway Knoxville downtown, runway end lights, so they get into heliports, everything else in here. So not everything applies to us in here. Again, I am not downplaying Notams. Notams are the lifeblood of what we do. I'm just working through these to kind of honor your time. Earl said Pro Plus has the chart, so I apologize for not mentioning. I didn't know. I literally think my ForeFlight subscription expires tomorrow, though, the 1st of May, so I need to renew it here. Anyways, and then from there, it is simply just return back to the beginning. So first off, go or no-go decision. I can tell you, I am making a no-go decision, no doubt. That's an easy decision for me to make, though. That no-go decision. Certainly not a hard one to do. Did you learn anything? Does the cross-section chart help you? If you have Pro Plus, and by the way, that's not. It is ForeFlight, and I don't know ForeFlight's agreement that they have, but it's a company called WDT that actually puts that out. So I don't know if ForeFlight has exclusivity with that, or will that be available on Garmin Pilot soon? I don't know. I haven't been in the Garmin Pilot app in a while. I was flying a Bonanza that had NXI and everything else, and it was using that quite a bit, but not as much anymore, especially with the quarantine and such. But anyways, yeah, I'm making a no-go decision. I would imagine 99.9% of you on here as well made a no-go decision. That's the smart decision, no doubt. But yeah, just absolutely phenomenal. I love this opportunity to be able to share more. So listen, let's open it up now for your questions. Anything you want to chat about, I'm happy to chat about it. Before we dive into that, if you're stuck at home and you want to learn more, take a 2-week free trial of our online ground school, m0atrial.com. That'll give you access to the complete online ground school so you can check everything out in there, private, instrument, commercial, FOI courses, just so you can see everything in there. If you love my teaching style, as how many members do I have on here? I know we have a ton of members. Eric and Martin and Deb and so many are on here watching this. They can attest to it. I see them so often on our member-only webinars as well. By the way, every Tuesday afternoon, we do a 2-hour webinar like this, just sharing more, learning more, and we're not out just to pass a test. We're out to create safer, smarter pilots. That's what we're really pursuing. So m0atrial.com if you want to check that out and learn more. And I also know it is a terrible and difficult time to be marketing a cruise. However, in October, we still have our Aviation Mastery at Sea. It's on Independence of the Seas out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, October 26th through the 31st. Myself, Stevo One Canevo will be there, as well as Brennan Edwards, who is the resident drone expert as well. We'll be diving more into VFR and IFR ForeFlight usage. Amazing breakout sessions, breakout speakers. I'll be presenting some of the main keynotes. Steve will be presenting. Brennan's gonna be talking about drones and the drone track. We also have our co-pilot course as well, where I want you to bring your non-flying spouse, partner, son, daughter, best friend, whoever that may be, while you're learning how to be a ninja on Garmin Pilot or ForeFlight for VFR and IFR techniques. They're going to be learning how to be the best co-pilot they can be to you and how to be an asset together in the cockpit. I'm not talking just like, hey, I had an emergency, you need to take over. I'm talking how to help tie down and untie the airplane, how to help pre-flight, how to help pull up the charts you need in ForeFlight, how to talk basics on the radios. 23 Mike Zulu, contact Jack's approach 118.6, and they key up 118.6, 23 Mike Zulu. They put in 118.6. They flip-flop and they check in. Jack's 23 Mike Zulu, level 5,000. And they give, that's the level we want. And some of you going, I don't think that'll ever happen. I'm telling you, we're developing a system to make it happen. We want your co-pilots to be an asset to you in the cockpit and practice some crew resource management. Head over to aviationmastery.com, aviationmastery.com if you want to check that out and learn more. So we're just really excited about that, aviationmastery.com. Let's take some questions, then I'll let you all get back to enjoying your workday. Let's see, Earl, thank you for the kind words. Jimmy asked, can a light aircraft go through icing? Not legally. Flight into known icing conditions, Jimmy, is actually prohibited. So we cannot fly in known icing conditions. How long can a light aircraft last in icing? Not very long. Go back 2-3 weeks ago when I did the video on icing, Jimmy, there's no faster way to disturb the smooth airflow, ruin aerodynamics, and add weight to the aircraft. No two faster ways to actually do that. Deb, we value you so much and your lifetime membership. Thank you so much for that. Holly, better late than never. Good to see you as well. Desmond, I agree. That's a no-brainer. Jim Whitehurst, good to see you. Sean said, can you explain how to use or find the VFR Day type cert for in-op equipment? So it goes a few ways. Typically, in general aviation, we live and breathe by 91205. That is our required VFR day and night, and we even dive into IFR a little bit, instrumentation. It's in there, it's 91205. Now, some aircraft also have what's called an MEL, a minimum equipment list. And a minimum equipment list, despite its name, a minimum equipment list is a list of the things, write this down, commercial pilot check ride applicants. A minimum equipment list is a list of things that are allowed to be broken and still fly the airplane. Let me say that again. A minimum equipment list is a list of things published by the manufacturer that is allowed to be broken and you're still allowed to fly the airplane. The coffee maker is broken. It's on the minimum equipment list. I can still go flying. That's kind of a silly example, but you understand what I'm saying there. Most of us, we just live and breathe by 91205. Your 172 is not going to have a minimum equipment list, if that's what you're talking about here. All right. Username, Rebel22, just got my Part 107. Congratulations, my friend. Everyone here with Part 61, absolutely you should. It's all online, super easy. I'm actually going to talk about some of the rules and regulations that changed. I'll have videos out on that here today, but we did just get a new SFAR. I'll have guidance on that this evening for you all. Someone asked, a dry line, how bad is it flying in a dry line? It really depends a lot on the wind, but a dry line can bring some really, really nasty wind associated with it. It also depends on the weather that's coming either behind it or the weather the dry line's heading towards as well. You can get some nasty mixes in there, but typically wind is your big byproduct of that. Randall said, how can I make a wind card? Randall, it's an older video, but go find the video called My #1 Check Ride Tip. And I detail how to create that wind card that I speak about in that video. Michael, my goal is to make it up to GKT the end of May. But we'll see how that works. I was actually planning on doing maybe a meetup in Knoxville. I don't know how that'll work though. We got 30 days to figure it out and see if how much better this gets, if that's going to be something we're going to do. But I was planning on going up there for vacation and then doing that. So I'll keep you in the loop for sure on that. We have many, Ben and a few others I know are on this watching as well. Neil, good evening to you. Always making the webinars. Neil in Ireland, hope you're doing well, my friend. Let's see, Jim says, I'm commercial instrument, single engine landing, considering either getting my multi-engine rating next. What would you recommend to add commercial MEL? So I'm commercial instrument single. Oh, do you want to add on your multi? Jim, my question for you is, do you wish to go on to CFI? Excuse me one second. Do you wish to go on to CFI? I went private instrument commercial single CFI. The reason I went to CFI is I had a lot of opportunities to teach. I literally had a line of students, not a line, but enough students to make it worth my while to say, I'm going to skip multi. Multi's expensive, everything else, and I'm going to go right into instructing. I earned my CFI, my double I, then went back and added my commercial multi add-on. Just because there weren't as many multi opportunities as there were opportunities to instruct. So Jim, if you wish to instruct, just think about that, but you can certainly go commercial multi. It's 10 hours at a minimum. It's a fun one to do. Will says, do I have GPS approach tutorials inside the ground school? If you go back and hop over to m0atrial.com, you can check that out. I have a few on YouTube, not much. I will have some more in the month of June. I think I'd have to look at our marketing calendar and see. We kind of book out all our videos many, many months in advance, unless something like this SFAR and other things come up. m0atrial.com, they'll hop in the Instrument Pilot Ground School. You can see full GPS approaches there in a G1000, as well as standard steam gauges as well. So you can see all of that. Jorge asks, how do our programs adapt to Canada? Everything, we're all geared FAA. Again, I'd encourage you to go to m0atrial.com just to check it out before you spend any money. No credit card required or anything. Check it out. Everything is geared towards FAA, so your big things are going to be regulatory differences and tiniest bit of airspace differences. Other than that, weather doesn't change, principles of flight don't change, cross-country flight planning doesn't change, iPad use doesn't change. Aerodynamics, it doesn't change. A little bit of regulatory changes, a little bit of airspace changes. We have a ton of Canadian students in there as well. All right, any more questions or comments? Let's see, I'm not seeing anything else. Again, guys, I love being able to do these live streams with you all, especially why so many of us are kind of stuck at home. It's just a way to get out there, educate, and share the good news, the good message of m0a.com. I mean it when I call you guys family. Family takes care of family, by the way. So in these crazy times where there's record unemployment and everything else, if there is anything myself and our outstanding team here can do for you all, our M0A family, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be reading through each and every comment here once we're done as well. Don't hesitate to head over to the site, send us a Facebook message, whatever it takes to get in touch with us. We have live chat support, phone support, email support. We are here to serve you all. Don't forget, check out the trial at m0atrial.com. Take action on that. Hope to see you all on Aviation Mastery at sea, aviationmastery.com. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great afternoon, guys. We'll see you.